Hi everyone, my name is Jessica and I'm an alum of the NVYO program, and today I'm here to give a few tips on the audition for symphony. So we're starting off with the scale. They have as an example a G major and a G minor 3-octave scale. I won't play the scale, I think you already have a video on this, but I would say the biggest things to show, as it says in bold on the audition packet, is to use full bows. That shows a big confident sound, and it gives you an opportunity to show that you can really make it to both the frog and the tip of the bow with a nice full sound, and try to use vibrato as well to keep rounding the sound. When you're practicing the scale, try not to just run it and say, oh, that's good. Try to focus on things that are a little more challenging perhaps in the scale, such as practicing going up and down on the shift notes, such as the shift to third position from C to D. And really solidify that shift into place so that you feel confident in it. That's what I would recommend for the scale. Moving on to the solo. I know it says you can choose something that you play well. I would say over a section of an orchestra or ensemble piece, try to choose a solo piece because that often better demonstrates your violin playing. And choose something that you like to play. That's always helpful and they can tell when you're playing the piece. And choose something that challenges you but isn't totally scary. So try not to choose something that feels like it's above your skill level and you're just trying to show the highest level that you can play, but try to show something that you feel comfortable and confident with, while it's something that shows what you can do on the violin. All right, next I'm going to demonstrate the excerpt, and then we'll talk about a few ways that we can practice it. So the first thing I would say to do when preparing this excerpt is to listen to the excerpt in context. So go to YouTube, go to Apple Music or Spotify and look up Dvorak Symphony No. 8 and listen to just the beginning of the first movement through the end of the excerpt. You'll get a better idea of what the other instruments are doing, what your part sounds like in context, and what you can try to sound like. And as you practice it, if you get up to tempo, then you can play it with the recording as well, which can be helpful. But when you first start to practice it, after you listen, try then doing slow practice, because if we try to play this excerpt at top speed right away, it's going to sound and feel very messy, which is never optimal. So let's start with slow practice, get things comfortable under our fingers, and then you can slowly start bringing it up with the metronome. So I'd recommend a metronome highly as well. So let's look at the beginning and look where we start at A. The dynamic is pianissimo, and this is very important because it's going to crescendo all the way to forte in measure 33, and then fortissimo in measure 36. So we have a long way to go, and you want to demonstrate at the beginning that you know that. So if I were to start at measure A, I would really try to embody that pianissimo personality. Very quiet. All right, this whole excerpt is really good at demonstrating different types of bowings and how you can stay steady through those bowings. So during a lot of these sections, I would practice again with a metronome, and especially the hooked bowings where sometimes if those aren't well practiced, they can be a little bit uneven. So practice these a little slowly with a metronome and then get them up to tempo. Something like that. All right. Another thing you can do while practicing that is to just use open strings. If you're not ready to do the notes and the bow together at a good tempo, using just open strings can help you just practice the bow. All right, another part that we can look at is measure 36. I see in the part that the rests are circled. That means they're important, so do those rests. It also shows that the rhythm there can be a little complicated, so make sure that rather than sounding like a triplet, the rhythm is very precise in that 16th note rest action. When we get here to measure B, I would practice counting that rest into measure 42 so that the people who are listening know that, one, you might know what's going on in the other parts during that rest, two, that you know how to count those rests and stay steady. That shows that you have a good sense of tempo. So even though it seems like an awkward amount of time to just sit there, I would recommend practicing sitting through that and counting the rest. Okay, in measure 43, we have the introduction of trills in the excerpt. I know that in one fingering, the trill can be from 3rd to 4th finger on your G, on the D string. If that is difficult for you, trilling with the pinky, which can sometimes be hard, you can use your 2nd finger that you just had on the F sharp, bring it to the G, and then trill from your 2nd finger to 3rd finger, if that's easier for you. Then I would just go right back to 1st position on the next G, which is the 3rd beat of measure 43. Make sure with the trills that it doesn't affect your rhythm. So maybe practice first without the trills and then add them in. All right. I would say in measure 48 and 50, sometimes the grouping of the left hand, you have to shift a lot to get to each of those new positions. So maybe while practicing, try practicing this in chunks and letting your right hand pause and your left hand get there so that you really know where you're going. That'll look something like this. And then you can go a little faster. And then you can put it together. All right, then as we get towards the end, it starts getting higher, and we have to go into really high positions, which can feel a little scary. It definitely feels scary to me. But rather than shying away, try really acting confident and using even more bow and really doing the crescendo like it says to really get the personality of that section there. The climax of this whole excerpt is at C. So make sure when you get to C, really play those chords very strong and confidently, and really accent that 3rd beat of C because that's the melody that we've been leading to this whole excerpt. So really show that when you get there and end this excerpt confidently and proudly. I hope these tips are helpful. I would say the main 3 things are to listen to the piece, practice with metronome, and practice things in chunks before you put it all together so that you feel more confident on each part. Best of luck with your audition!